Welcome to the HR Chat Show, one of the world's most downloaded and shared podcasts designed for HR pros, talent execs, tech enthusiasts, and business leaders. For hundreds more episodes and what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.
Welcome to another episode of the HR Chat podcast. Hello, listeners. This is your host today, Bill Banham. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about one of the most pressing challenges facing the UK labour market, the NEET crisis, and what business leaders, educators, and community innovators can do to help close the gap. Joining me is someone who's at the forefront of this mission, a wonderful chap, Sam Squire. He's the CEO over at Ignite CIC, a social enterprise building bridges between disengaged young people and local business opportunities. Sam and his team are also key partners in the upcoming Disrupt Milton Keynes Summit happening November 6th over at Securitas HQ, where he'll be digging into the causes, consequences, and potential solutions for the skills and engagement challenges shaping the UK workforce. Sam, my friend, how are you doing? Welcome to the show today.
Hello, Bill, and thank you for having me. Really grateful for the invitation, and I've listened to your podcast many times on the website. So yeah, thanks for having me, and looking forward to kind of deep diving into the event in Milton Keynes and also about the work that we do as well.
Yeah, so context here, listeners, is I'm honoured to be on the board of Inspired to Ignite. They do great work. They've helped over 10,000 young people not in training, education, or employment in the Milton Keynes area. In fact, now all around the UK, they're making a big difference. So we're doing this event in Milton Keynes together to help raise a bit more awareness. Sam, for our listeners who may not know, maybe you can start by telling us about Inspired to Ignite, your mission, who you serve, and how the organisation came to be.
Yeah, so Inspired to Ignite, we are a social enterprise, and our purpose is to ensure that every young person in the UK has access to the opportunities, the networks, and the pathways to succeed and also become activated economically, but also socially and give back to their communities. And our mission is actually serving young people that are out of education and employment, and like I say, engaging them where they're at, inspiring them through real world experiences, and then activating them into work or self-employment. And how the organisation came about, Alex Hughes, who is the founder of Inspired to Ignite, he began to recognise in our society that there was too many young people that weren't in education and employment. And when we launched 3 years ago, that number was 200,000 less than it was now. So we were kind of talking about this challenge before it came a crisis. And unfortunately now there's as many young people not in education and employment, 16 to 24, where you can actually fill Wembley over 9 times. So we're at the forefront of trying to tackle this crisis and try and change the state of our nation.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think it's around about 1 million young folk in the UK who are NEETs at the moment. I was reading an article in The Guardian earlier this week talking about growth of the UK economy, 0.1% apparently. And it's also talking about how specifically it's young people under 24, whether or not they're NEETs, who are struggling at the moment to find employment, to find opportunities, and so on. What's your personal story, Sam? How did you come to get involved with Inspired to Ignite?
Yeah, those statistics that you share, the most recent National Office of National Statistics was about 958,000, but there's a whole not known section, and there's probably hundreds of thousands of other young people that are kind of being left behind rather than launched. And I was one of those statistics I do what I do now because when I was 19, I spent 11 years at one football club, achieved my dream of becoming a professional footballer. And then after one conversation, my whole world flipped and I became NEET overnight. And I didn't have any further education or employment opportunities, didn't have a CV, didn't have a personal statement. And that same week, I bumped into Alex, who was the founder, of Inspired Tonight, saw him on Instagram, door stopped him on a date with his now fiance, and I said to him I wanted to be a life coach. He kind of said, what have you got to teach anyone about life? So I'm going to prove you wrong. And then went on a journey over the next couple of years together. And then he gave me a call saying, look, I want to give you an opportunity. I've seen you've been putting the energy into yourself to develop other young people, and I want to share the vision. And as soon as he shared the vision with me, I was brought in straight away, and we haven't looked back since, really. So I think lived experience and leading with that is really important, especially in business, but also social enterprise. So when I'm speaking to young people, I can really I can feel what they felt, and that's what I want to change with their lives and help them take back control of their lives and give them the infrastructure and the social capital to achieve what they wish to do.
So there's been a lot in the news recently. The government is finally getting its act together and trying to support, for example, lots of apprenticeships, which is awesome. But it just feels to me like until extremely recently, that this cause fell on the shoulders of organisations such as Inspire to Ignite, as opposed to being championed by at the government level. Why do you think that is?
I think that when you look at young people and their connection to potential government manifestos, there is always a risk that people aren't able to forecast the return on investment if certain investments were made into certain youth infrastructure. And we've seen for youth provision funding, for example, I think it was between 2012 to 2022, that was cut by 71%, leaving nearly 50% of youth clubs nationally closing and many other youth provisions. And I think the way in which our country has been governed over the last decade is more of a reactive approach rather than a proactive approach. And I think we need to begin funding downstream, because otherwise in Inspire to Unite and other youth provisions are having to pull young people out of the river and having to probably implement provisions that are probably more costly if we'd have just invested further down the stream. So I think now is a bit of a knee-jerk reaction with some of the funding, which is amazing that we can actually do this, but it's not just going to happen and change overnight. And we are blessed that there's a youth guarantee, which means anyone 18 to 21 is going to have the opportunity to learn or earn. And we've got some really exciting projects that include kind of industry-led construction programs, hospitality, digital, and also coding programs, and then also in-person industry experiences and work experiences. However, I think part of my manifesto is that I think we all need to come together and make it our own problem. It shouldn't have to rely on just organisations like Inspire to Ignite or even government funding. It should be Marge at the bus stop that's chatting with Jimmy and finds out he's NEET and can see how she can help him in one way. I think that's how we solve it, because if we all done that, if 1 million households done that, we would solve the million that are not in education employment. So imagine the ripple effect that would have if all of us done it as well.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HR Chat podcast. If you enjoy the audio content we produce, you'll love our articles on the HR Gazette. Learn more at hrgazette.com. And now, back to the show.
What can be the impact on a young person if they are NEET, in terms of their confidence, in terms of their mental well-being? Can you paint a picture of that?
Yeah, I think from my experience with working, I've now worked with over 15,000 young people in the last decade, and it's really interesting to see when a young person's in a certain circumstance, if they're not in education or employment, what they might lose is that structure and that purpose. And self-fulfilling prophecies are real. And depending on what they've been told, it could be by their family members, it could be by educators in the past or other people in the community or a previous employer, they hold those comments in their mind, and that then shapes their belief, and then their belief shapes how they feel, and then their feelings shape how they behave. And I think what we try and do is give that young person that safety space and that psychological safety to actually go, okay, you have got unconditional regard here. We accept you for what the past has been and who you are now. However, what we won't accept is for you to keep believing that. So here are some opportunities. Here's a network, and try things, fail, and we'll be the safety net to support you and not a cliff edge. And it's treat like human and not a service provider. And they know that whatever happens, you're going to be there for them. Their whole belief system shifts. And I think experiences are really important, because you can't, I know reading is really important, but you can have all the theory that you want, but then there's a difference between learning and then understanding. And if you're then able to implement that learning in the real world, then I think that's priceless.
Once in a while, an event series is born that shakes things up, it makes you think differently, and it leaves you inspired. That event is Disrupt HR. The format is 14 speakers, 5 minutes each, and slides rotate every 15 seconds. If you're an HR professional, a CEO, a technologist, or a community leader and you've got something to say about talent, culture, or technology, Disrupt is the place. It's coming soon to a city near you. Learn more at disrupthr.co.
Okay, so you mentioned in that answer that it's now up to actually 15,000 young people that you and Alex and the team have been able to help. That's amazing. Yeah. I wonder if you can point to 1, 2, 3 examples that you're particularly proud of in terms of someone who came to you guys. They needed that support, they needed that guidance to help them learn and then make that next step into either starting their own thing or going into employment. I can think of a few young folks from my experiences with you guys who've done amazing things as a result. But can you share a couple of examples?
I'm going to speak about people that have spoken at Disrupt HR. So I remember Bo was on our very first entrepreneurial program, and I remember literally they wouldn't leave mine and Alex's side if we went out to get some food. Their social anxiety was through the roof. They'd had some real traumatic experiences with education and had a lot of trauma through that. And we had to be that safety net to help them build trust. And through our program, we helped them develop their own digital artwork business. And then bit by bit, confidence grew. They then began to monetize on YouTube, have achieved over hundreds of thousands of views, and have now got their own kind of e-commerce store, and they're self-sustaining, and they're now kind of exhibiting at their what they used to go as their dream was to go to this conference just to go, and then now they're exhibiting. So I thought that was amazing. But when they spoke at Disrupt HR, when you and Alex were with them in Norwich, I think there was like 3 or 4 rounds of applause and stand ovations whilst the talk was happening. It was only 5 minutes. So even now, like speaking about it kind of makes me emotional, just because I've seen the transformation. And so that's one. We've had a young person called Michael, 3 generations of care, been in the care system 13 years. And again, when I first met them, this is the reality. We went to where they lived, and we had to get locked in a room because someone pulled out a knife in the room next to us. And that was a very interesting way of meeting. Came on our program, went on various work experiences. And then he was pitching people at the train station, asking for work experiences and going to London. And I've only recently found out last couple of weeks that he's passed his driving test. He's got a car, he's transitioned out of care, and he's got now actively applying for roles and have got some unconditional offers. So that's like incredible. And then I'd probably say the other one would be Bailey. So age 14, instead of being a Tomb Raider, he was a loft raider. Sold all of whatever was in his parents' loft, bought a 3D printer, and then created a cookie cutter company with his brother. And first year they'd done about £40,000 in turnover. Got sued by Barbie because they created a Barbie cookie cutter. Learned about AI before kind of the trends kicked in, and now he's doing kind of consultancy around AI. Just got a house. Just like crazy. So those are a couple that, and I could probably just go on and on.
But this pod, it doesn't have long enough for us to do that. But yeah, just 3 wonderful examples there. I know that you've done a lot of research into this. Where does the NEET crisis in the UK stand, or where does it compare? How does it compare to other countries, perhaps within the EU, within North America? How bad is it in the UK compared to other countries?
So in the UK at the moment, there's about the youth unemployment percentage is about 12.8%, whereas in comparison to a country such as the Netherlands, there's 3% there. So that's where I think with having Julius as part of the MK event, Disrupt HR event, it's going to be really interesting to actually see at a macro economic level, okay, what does that actually look like, and how can we learn from these other countries, from their models and from their systems, and how can we then implement that into the UK? So we are blessed as well that we've got some kind of international partners now, and we are conducting a research project with one of our corporate partners called Flowers, who are like a flower distributor based in the UK, but are now exploring kind of Netherlands and also other countries. So I think from our perspective, it kind of starts with education, but then there's a huge social wraparound and the mindset to then what I said earlier around how can we help one person just one-to-one and make it a community issue. So I think it'd be really interesting to hear from Julius, and I'm excited to see the comparisons between his data and our kind of localized place-based data to see if there's any kind of connections with that.
So a quick follow-up to that is why do you think the numbers are so much more severe in the UK compared to, for example, the Netherlands?
The education system in the United Kingdom hasn't changed for a long time, and the world is rapidly evolving, and young people are leaving a system which probably hasn't set them up for success, and there's a big disconnect between education and industry. But then I think when you're looking at if a young person then drops out of education between the age of 16 to 18, the local authorities used to kind of track a lot of those young people, what their outcomes were, and especially for those that once they'd finished college or A-levels, actually there were, because of some cuts into local authorities, that no one tracked their outcomes. So going back to what I was saying previously about that not known number, there used to be teams, they would kind of track the outcomes of those individuals, whereas now there's no follow-up, or if I go to a certain university, for example, outside of the local authority, they just assume that I've got a job. Whereas now also there used to be kind of a supply and demand of university degrees, whereas I think because that's now an outcome within our education system, a lot of young people are now getting degrees, but then with the labour market, there's not enough jobs to kind of fulfill those degrees. So, and also implementation of technology and AI, what used to kind of be your lower skilled roles, even at degree level, organizations are now implementing technology that can kind of do those tasks, which mean that those who are a little bit more skilled are really struggling to actually get in the door in the first place. So I think the combination of all those things, and also linking back to infrastructure, transport, for example, for those that are living in rural areas, where we are based, 99% of the district we live in is rural. And if it takes one bus an hour, or even some areas is like one bus a day, and you've got to get from A to B, and there's 3-4 different bus routes, and also there's no income coming in, and there's a 9-month waiting list for driving lessons, and those are getting increased. There's all these barriers that just kind of overlap. So I wouldn't kind of put it down to one thing. I think it's that kind of snowball effect of multiple different elements that have caused this to build up.
And why do you think there's still a disconnect between employers? You mentioned Flowers; they're doing wonderful stuff. So shout out to Flowers. But why do you think generally there's a disconnect between employers who are looking for talent and NEETs or folks who are at risk of becoming NEET? Why? And I guess my question is, why aren't more companies seizing the opportunity to employ young folks and young NEETs?
I think sometimes there may have been like a stigma of what young person that is not in education or employment is, and someone that might be hanging around a bus stop, smoking, causing trouble, drinking. I think there's a little bit of that, and also the unknown of they may have not done this before. So actually then trying to get that signed off within leadership teams and the kind of corporate hierarchy can be challenging as well. And I think maybe how education and industry have spoken to each other previously around the need for qualifications and the need for this, that when you begin to almost not put pressure, but challenge organisations on actually, do they need this qualification to become eligible for the recruitment process? And kind of when we've actually asked that question of employers, they actually go, do you know what, we actually don't need this. And we're just creating another barrier. So it allows them to kind of unlock talent pools in new ways. So I'd say it's a combination of potentially mindset and perspective, and also like systems that have probably been in place that haven't been reviewed for long periods of time. And also in some sectors, such as construction, for example, there's huge kind of pressures being put on construction organisations around the cost of materials going up. And actually for them to take an apprentice on, going back to that kind of return on investment, they may not see the return on investment for a couple of years, but it actually costs a lot now to take an apprentice on in comparison to the margins that some businesses would have had previously. I think like Brexit has caused a lot of challenges for businesses that trade internationally, but also kind of get their materials and products in from other countries as well.
It's been a while since we've mentioned Brexit on this show. Doesn't go away. Okay, let's just spend a couple of minutes now and preview the events on November 6th. So as I mentioned earlier on, I'm absolutely delighted that Disrupt's going to be doing this event in partnership with Inspire to Ignite, and we've got an amazing lineup. You mentioned Julius. Julius is the European labour market analyst and expert from Appcast, so he's doing a keynote. We've got a bunch of Disrupt speakers. I think there's 6, including myself. I'm going to be up on stage for this one. Richard Page Brown from NFU Mutual, Izzy, who's done a whole bunch of talks. She's a wonderful example of why we do these Disrupt events. First time she came up, she'd never presented in public before. Now she does wonderful things over at North Central London ICB. We've got Rebecca Poxon from Pluxy UK, and we've got Josh. Josh is another young person that you guys have been supporting for a while. Lovely guy. He's going to come up and share his experiences. In addition to all of that, you and Ollie are going to come up and share findings from the most recent NEET report that Inspired to Ignite puts together approximately every quarter. Maybe you can tell us a bit about that now, and also tell us a bit about your interactive session, which is going to take about 30 minutes. And the idea is we're going to get the whole audience involved with that.
Yeah, awesome. So in regards to our Young Person Ready platform, we've created some infrastructure for young people to access work experiences, mentorship, events such as Disrupt HR, and also paid internships, apprenticeships, and employment. And as part of this, it's not just another job board. So what we do is we collect data from young people frequently in the community and understand their priorities in the workplace. And then that formalizes the report that we can then share with professionals, organizations, community members to actually begin to understand, okay, that's really interesting. Young people of this age in that area kind of view the workplace in this way. And then it helps them kind of strategize and be proactive in regards to how they're actually creating systems within their organizations for young people, and then kind of attract, retain, and develop those young people as best as they can. So that's what we're going to be presenting, and it'd be really interesting to see how that compares to Julius's research as well. And then in regards to the live kind of learning lab workshop, so what we're going to be doing is, actually my vision is for this event, we want a solution to come out of it, and then that will allow us and our team, and if there are other members of the community that want to come on board with us and build it out, to actually take something from the event and then look at implementing a solution. So it'll be really interactive. We'll get some kind of whiteboard wallpaper up as well, and then we'll get people connecting, brainstorming, and then kind of presenting that back at the end of the event. So it's going to be really positive, high energy, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yep, we've got loads of networking and a shed load of content packed into this particular event, listeners. So if you are in the Milton Keynes area and want to learn more about some of the stuff that Sam and I have been discussing today, please come along. You can find us on Eventbrite or LinkedIn or meetup.com or various other places, and you can sign up there. Just finally for today, Sam, what can we expect from Inspire to Ignite in 2026? You guys have had lots of exciting news in the last couple of weeks. I don't know how much we can share on this pod today, but the future is bright for the organisation. What are the plans for next year?
Yeah, so plans for next year, we've had some brilliant news that we've been funded to deliver a wide range of projects connected to the Youth Guarantee. So we've got industry-led hospitality, construction, tech and coding, live kind of industry open days, 10 hours of qualified career coaching. We've got a sweet shop of different stuff for young people. So that's going to be something that we're going to be doing kind of up until March and hopefully scaling up. But we're also kind of exploring how we can scale our impact nationally and kind of bring other youth organisations on that journey with us. So stay tuned for an application that's going to completely transform the way in which young people and organisations connect with each other, but also how young people can access different support networks for their own development journeys as well. So looking forward to sharing that next time that we catch up, Bill.
Excellent. And just finally, how can folks connect with you, Sam? Is that LinkedIn? You're way cooler than I am, so I bet you're on the Instagrams and the TikToks and places. And of course, how can folks learn more about Inspire to Ignite?
Yeah, so I'm at LinkedIn, just put Sam Squire and hopefully you'll find me. I'm a bit of a LinkedIn serial poster. I'm on Instagram at Aspire with Squire, no spaces. And best way to connect with us is head to our website at www.inspiretoignite.co.uk. Reach out to our team and we'll be happy to get back to you.
Beautiful. That just leaves me to say for today, 00 Squire, thank you very much for being my guest on this episode.
Thank you, Bill. Pleasure. And I'll see you at MK.
And listeners, as always, until next time, happy working.
Thanks for listening to the HR Chat Show. If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and listen to some of the hundreds of episodes published by HR Gazette? And remember, for what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.